The Pulse Network. It's What's Next now.
Now, the most recent story takes a look at Moody's, the rating agency, who has come out saying that they are threatening to downgrade the United States and their credit rating. Now, Moody's Investor Service said this yesterday afternoon, and this could have very large implications on the United States. Now, the credit rating agency said it's going to review the federal government's AAA bond rating because the White House and Congress are running out of time to raise the nation's $14.3 trillion borrowing limit to avoid a default. It asks the question, so what? Is this going to affect me? Well, as long as you're not a bondholder trying to get your money back or a government employee waiting on a paycheck, you probably won't be directly affected at first. But they say get a head start on freaking out anyway, because a U.S. default would have two immediate results. First, it would severely roil markets, and in case you haven't noticed, the recovery is extremely fragile. Second, it could radically increase the government's future cost of borrowing, which would make the national debt increase even faster and make it harder to reduce the deficit. President Obama met with some of the top Republicans yesterday, and they decided to talk about what's going down with the budget. Now, what happened is supposedly drama hit a top. President Obama reportedly walked out of the meetings. Now, this is all hearsay right now, but we do have this quote that ABC News blog posted up saying is what Obama's words were during that meeting, and they are quite harsh. He's quoted as saying, "This process is confirming what the American people think is worst about Washington." Muammar Gaddafi is making headlines this morning after controversial statements he made that have now been reposted over on RT.com. They take a look at, well, what Muammar Gaddafi is saying about his surface-to-surface missiles. Now, he says that so far Gaddafi has not used surface-to-surface missiles, but he was quoted yesterday as saying to not count them out. He says that he is ready to use them if necessary, ready to use them against Tripoli. To loosely quote as RT.com does, he says that he was ready to, in regards to Tripoli, blow it up with surface-to-surface missiles. All eyes returned to U.S. versus France. Well, yesterday the United States defeated France 3-1. This was a huge win for the United States, yet many analysts are saying it wasn't quite as pretty as other games in the past, that the United States really played clean soccer against Brazil, and against France, well, they got the job done, but that's sort of about all they did. It wasn't necessarily the prettiest game that the United States has played. But let's break it down a little bit. Checking out the top 3 goals that the United States scored. Now, the first goal was scored by Lauren Cheney just 9 minutes into the U.S. game. This gave the U.S. huge momentum. With just 9 minutes in, Lauren Cheney securing that goal early, giving the U.S. some mo to head into the rest of the game. Well, France did come back to tie it up 1-1, but it wasn't until the 79th minute when Abby Wambach headed in across to break the 1-1 tie. It was a solid clutch move by a longtime solid clutch player. Many people have been comparing her to other well-known female athletes in that arena, like Michelle Bachmann from her time. She says that goal also tied Abby with Michelle for scoring the most U.S. World Cup goals. James Harrison and his controversial, some might just say plain old stupid comments. Now, James Harrison from linebacker for the Pittsburgh Steelers, and he is being blasted for his comments in Men's Journal. Whether he's being blasted on the Twitter sphere, on the blogosphere, pretty much everyone is just straight up blasting him for these comments. Well, how bad were they really? Well, let's take a look at a few. This is in Men's Journal. He first is his opinion on being branded as a thug. My rep is James Harrison, mean son of a bitch who loves hitting the hell out of people. But up until last year, there was no word of me being dirty. Till Roger Goodell, who's a crook and a puppet, said I was the dirtiest player in the league. If that man was on fire and I had to piss to put him out, I wouldn't do it. I hate him and will never respect him.
The Pulse Network. It's What's Next now.